me great pleasure to see all of you here today. I'm the director of Vedic Roots. We're a preschool located in Scarborough in Canada, and it's a great privilege for me to welcome today Aarti, who is going to be sharing with us knowledge about yoga as a holistic parenting tool. Let me first please introduce Aarti here to all of you, those of you who may not have met Aarti before. Aarti is a very experienced yoga teacher. She specializes in the traditional yoga system as presented by our ancient yoga scriptures. She holds a master's in Yoga Shastra and has completed advanced yoga training for multiple schools of authentic yoga, and she's achieved the level of a yoga pandit. She has many years of experience teaching yoga, conducting seminars and webinars for all age groups, and she has a passion for making yoga fun and easy for children. And we're so grateful, actually, Aarti, to be able to get you to address our parents and interested viewers here. We've been doing these seminar series called Ancient Wisdom for Modern Parenting for some time now, and I'm just so happy that we've been able to get you on here. Over to you, Aarti. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to all the organizers and team of Vedic Roots. And it is my privilege to be of some help to your team and to the beautiful community that you have. So without much ado, we will begin with a small prayer to start with beautiful sound vibrations. So yes, I'm also seeing some beautiful kids around there, and it's okay. You can hang on along with your parents just to see some fun part of yoga that I'm going to discuss maybe. So we'll just chant some initial prayers. If you know the prayer, you can chant with me, or you can just listen to the sound vibrations. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanam Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishamahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Welcome all. So I'm also going to share some presentation today. So you have an idea on how to share yoga today with your kids. I mean, as an adult, maybe most of us are familiar now with so many benefits of yoga. It's like all over now. Yogic benefits, everybody is convinced about it. I'm very sure most of you are already practicing yoga. You have seen the benefits on you. And that is the reason why you want to share it with your children there around you. So it is an easy task, but at the same time, quite challenging sometimes on how to develop that interest in them for yoga practice that we have been doing. So today's seminar is all about where I'm going to share with you some of the interesting ways on how children will also have fun when yoga, and that does not become like another to-do thing in their list, you know. Like as parents or as caretakers, we think that all right now my kids should be doing yoga, so that becomes one of the burden for them and for you, that how can I make do it. But if we incorporate yogic practices in a very loving and fun way which they can enjoy, then it does not become any boring to do thing for your kids. So just allow me to quickly share one presentation and we will start our discussions on this subject. So what I would like to call is as the yogic parenting. We will be also discussing some nice principles and points on what is the yogic way of parenting, an amazing loving way but in a detached manner, and how you can incorporate a family yoga practice. Like you all are in the house, especially in the lockdown period, I'm sure most of us are stuck together, and how we can still do some different ideas in incorporating yogic practices. So before we discuss some ideas, let's understand the importance of yoga in a children's life. We all have been doing various things for our kids by which they can grow into a holistic personality. However, incorporating yoga can really solve this anxiety that most of the parents have, that how can I give the holistic care to my child. So most of us at this age, while children are learning new things, they are into schools and they have a lot of pressure of studies, we definitely want them to be more focused, concentration, and that is where yoga is going to really help them. I'm again and again saying yoga and not just some asana or pranayama, because yoga in its big picture is many things and not just asanas and pranayama. So as I go forward in my presentation, I'm going to discuss on different tools and techniques that you will incorporate. So definitely it will improve the learning process of your child. It strengthens the nervous system, and of course it is definitely improving the efficiency of other bodily functions. Physical and mental health is also improved for a kid who has been seen practicing yoga. It gives a good self-esteem and confidence. We have seen many children, they sometimes lack in confidence, or they do not feel like self-worth, or they don't love themselves. So different yogic ways, also kind of imparts this self-loving, self-accepting, and self-esteem in a child. Sometimes children, when they grow up, they are not really aware of different sensations, emotions, or how their body is feeling. What are they going through? They are unable to express their emotions. There are different ways in a fun yogi class where we can build up the awareness aspect right from the childhood. If a child learns to understand the aspect of awareness on just observing on how he or she feels, or what it means to be stressed, what it means to be relaxed, what is the difference between the two. So if a child learns to understand this, you will see that as an adult he is a more mindful person, and he will understand his body, his emotions in a better way. So if that training is given from the childhood, this is where yoga really comes in the picture. Well, we all believe that even our children, they do have anxiety and stress. If all the while we were thinking that we are the one adults, carrying on all the burden of responsibility, but no, I'm sure you all will agree with me in this point that they do have physical and emotional mental stress, as well as they have gang groups, peer pressure. If you start going to schools, pressure of exams, expectations from parents, you just name it. Maybe they are not able to speak up or express like way we do, but they definitely have this stress and anxiety holding on inside. So different yogic relaxation and mindful practices will help to channelize this stress and anxiety in a proper way, where to learn to express themselves, and they also learn the management of the stress. So we will see that in the upcoming slides too. I feel that yoga is one of the best non-competitive physical activity. Sometimes, right from any other sport or in school, it's always like a competition. Unfortunately, of course, I'm not. I want to say a disclaimer here. I'm not against any education system or any kind of a sport here or nothing like that. But we can witnesses for ourselves here that when children are kind of studying in schools, or they are taking part in some competitive exams, they're always under pressure that I have to do the best, and only if I do the best, then that is what I'm expected to do. Then I'll be at somewhere in my life. So this attitude is something which we, unfortunately are putting into our child, that only and only if you are like, leading somewhere in the exams, then your future is bright. So unfortunately, uh, subconsciously it goes very deeply, like conditioning, that I have to prove myself, I have to compete with others in order to be the best. But for us in yoga, we also do some nice physical exercise and activity, but there is no competition. We do yoga games also, but there is no competition. They learn to have fun, that not everything that I participate in I have to prove myself, but I have to improve myself. So this is what they learn through the non-competitive physical activity like yoga. It will definitely help to improve their behavioral disorders, if any, for sure, through various group activities and discussions that we do in yoga. And obviously, different breathing practices also help in balancing the energies in the body. and children, they learn to relax. Sometimes children are tired, but they don't know what to do when I'm tired, or like, am I really tired or not? There's not even that awareness that I'm tired. We have seen what children start to do is they start becoming extremely cranky when they are tired. So if children learn awareness, and if they know that what it means to relax, then there is a wonderful tool that we as a parent can do with them, along with them, to induce relaxation in children when they're extremely tired, and then they can nicely get back to the next task. Of course, the list of benefits goes super long, but you can just say. Uh, some different classes like in asanas and breath work, and we also have some different activities in a yoga class, which I'm going to discuss. At least some of them will get time to discuss. So it helps in increasing the creativity part. Sometimes in school, it is very one-sided education system nowadays. That okay, this is a syllabus, you have to sit, and I am a teacher, and I am just talking, and you have to follow and do everything that the deadline or the syllabus that I am giving you. But in yoga, it is not the way we want to introduce some learning, give some learning experience to the student. We want to co-create the class with them. We want to co-create the learning with them. If they have some inputs, they can share. If they want to create some posts, if they have something to share, if they have some stories, then we encourage that. They can draw, they can do some drawings. We don't force themselves to do certain things. They have their own corners. So this is how we increase their creativity, and through various activities this can be brought out. And definitely one of the important subject matter that many parents keep on asking is that my child is very hyperactive, or my child is very lethargic or not so active. Can anything be done? This is where yoga definitely helps. Different postures, asanas, breathing practices, mindfulness is definitely helping to balance the energies in the body. So if a child is hyperactive, it will come to balance. If the child is very underactive or not so active, then it will be also in the balance. Through various yogic activities, games, they also learn how to deal with the stresses of life. This is what is it not required that when they grow as an adult, don't we want our children to face the world like brave warriors? So there are different themes in yoga classes, different stories that we encourage and keep on sharing with them, that builds up their confidence. And they also learn at a very young age some tools and techniques that what do I really do if I feel stressed sometimes. They are not like finding then, what children do usually when they're stressed, they themselves first thing don't understand sometimes, or even if they understand, if they are like growing up and they understand, they kind of divert themselves with some gadget or some entertainment or maybe friends, but they are not really addressing the root cause of the stress, or they're not really managing it well. They are just finding some distractions. But if as an adult or as a caretaker and parents, if we can share the yogic ways of handling stress, then definitely it is a win-win situation for them for their entire life. uh, yes, the next point is it improves the flexibility a lot. When I was taking classes in our local center here, I realized that nowadays our kids have lost flexibility. And I'm going to ask a question now. Of course, there is no scope where you can answer, but you can answer to yourself in your mind. And I'm sure I know all of us know the answer. So it's very predictable answer. So why our children have lost flexibility nowadays? At least in my times, when I was a kid, I had gardens and mud and Mother Earth to play along with and run around the house. But nowadays, with more advancement in modern technology, modern life, we have so many gadgets around us, taking them stuck to one chair, maybe a mobile phone or a tablet or a PlayStation or whatever it is. I'm sure most of us are here, really anxious on how to get out our children from this gadget. So, of course, it's a little hard work, but definitely different ways and entertaining yoga practice is definitely going to attract them. And it's a big challenge. So that is why the big challenge is also here, where we make our yoga practice super fun for them, so that they are not again and again glued to these gadgets. and that is really reducing their flexibility. So that is one of the benefits that yoga practice is giving them. If somebody is into some different parallel sports activity, then it is definitely helping them to have more endurance, dexterity, concentration, focus, stamina, strength. So if somebody is also in some different parallel sport, yoga is definitely like an add-on to their journey in sports. In yoga also helps them to create balance in their behavior, personality, and helps to create some discipline in the class. And very, very important, it balances the hormones. We all must have witnessed at some point, if not our own child, and maybe we have heard that how early now our kids or girls are reaching to the maturity age, the puberty phase, which is not actually good, because body becomes ready somehow because of this imbalanced hormone. But understand the psychology and the mind of that younger child who is reaching to the maturity stage now, and that is where they can have a lot of emotional turmoil because they are not understanding mentally yet that what is happening to my body and something is happening to the body. So we have to bridge this gap between the mental maturity and the physical body maturity, and yoga can really help in balancing the hormones. So I'm sure you must have heard a few of the examples where children, like girls especially, they start their menstruation at super early age, which is not really a good thing for them. They are too fragile to understand what's happening with them. So different asana and breathing practices can help the onset of this puberty and maturation phase and can come in the right time then when they're also mentally ready. So these were some quick benefits of yoga that we want to impart to our children. And now, without much ado, we'll go straight into some different ways of introducing the practices. Well, it's just one workshop, so I mean, there's so much to speak, but I will definitely try to cover up on different aspects of yoga, like what kind of asanas and how you can make it fun. We will speak on some breath work, some mindfulness techniques, some relaxation that you can do, and other yogic practices as a family you can do together. So I'm coming to the asana part now, and I'm going to show you some props that I use for kids yoga classes. So most of you who are part of our seminar today, I'm assuming that you know a little bit about yoga already. Maybe you're a practitioner or you know certain asanas out there. So it's very commonly available nowadays on, just even do some YouTube or Google, so many postures are there. So how do you make it interesting? Maybe you know as an adult all the poses, but how do you make it interesting for the kids? So now we will discuss on some of the ideas which will make it more fun. One principle that you have to remember in kids yoga class is it is not as serious as adult, because we have to keep our expectations out of when we are dealing with a child in terms of getting some asana done or getting some yoga done. It has to be done in a playful manner. At the same time, of course, there are principles of discipline and there are some nice targets given, but we have to remove the expectations out, and it has to be more like a fun element where they can enjoy a lot. The younger the children are, the more fun aspect is nice. As you have children who are older than 8, 9, or 10, up to 12 age, then it can be more challenging. Some more challenging poses can be introduced. So that way you can play around with the dynamics. Some of the props that you can make at home or order online or you can use is, if you can see some of this, I use this yoga cards in the class. So hope you all can see it. It's nothing but the name of the pose along with a kid doing the pose and if it resembles any object. So here it is like a triangle pose, and we usually rename some of the poses so that kids find it more easy to remember. For those of you who also want to introduce Sanskrit names, like after the age group of 7 or 8, is a nice time to even introduce some Sanskrit name of poses. So how do we make yoga cards into yoga games now? Sometimes, like we just don't start doing poses that okay, do this poses. No, you can just fix up any time in a day. And my humble suggestion would be, as a parent, we all know I'm not going to talk so much on parenting because I'm sure many seminars are happening on that already, and you know certain principles here that children like to follow you. So if you're a caretaker, if you're a parent, they definitely see you as an example and follow you. So my humble suggestion here is that if you are not practicing yoga, there are less chances that they would really want to do it just as an instruction or an order from you. I would say little bit you also incorporate in your schedule in a way where they can practice along. So that will be a win-win situation for you as well. So what do we do with yoga cards is you can make these cards also at home. Yeah, or if you can just take a printout of any name of the asana, the object that it resembles to, you can take printout, laminate them, or you can just hand draw it on a cardboard. And nowadays, if you are if you want to really take it seriously, you have some cards available online also on Amazon. So you can just write yoga cards and you have so many. So what do we do with cards? We keep it a surprise for kids. Like they really like doing poses. If they choose what poses is going to come to them today. So what we do is sometimes we just randomly keep all the yoga cards this way, and a parent can ask, okay, you choose your pose, which pose comes to you, and then a child picks up the pose, he reads out the name, he or she does that pose. So that makes it super interesting for them. Sometimes we also sit in a circle, and then like if you're more like 4 or 5 members in the family or 2 or 3 members in the family, you can sit in a small circle and then play some pass on the pass, and whoever gets the ball has to come forward and choose a yoga card. So we all must be knowing as a parent many games that we play in the house, so you can incorporate similar games in, and you can kind of convert into a yoga pose game, and then whoever gets a cushion or whoever gets the ball in the passing pass game, as you play some music or you chant some mantras, they can pick up that card, and whatever pose is there, we all do it together. So even parents have to be like they're active doing those poses. So these are some ideas you can do with yoga cards. One more game that comes to my mind as far as yoga cards and games are concerned is especially for those children who have ADHD disorders, or maybe they are hyperactive and they need to stop at some point. They need to take a pause. We have to teach them that through yoga. So what I do is we play yoga statue game where a parent can stand in one corner of the room and a child can be on the another side of the room, and you can play some music or you can announce it, like the red light and green light game. So whenever I say red light, they have to stop, and whatever pose I show, like for example, I have a chair pose now on the cards. So a parent or a caretaker is on the other side of the room and just shows the chair pose. So the child who is coming forward will stop, do a chair pose, and we have to count till 5 or 10, depending on the age. You can ask them to hold for 5 breaths or 5 seconds or 10 seconds. Then they stay there, and then you can say, okay, green light, or relax, and then they can start walking towards you. So you can make it very innovative for kids to do a practice as you use some games or props and making it very exciting with your body language, with your words, and how you create that interest in them. Another game comes to my mind is we all must be knowing this musical chair game, where we are putting some chairs and then we are playing some music, and every time when the music stops, we occupy our spot on the chair, and whoever does not get the spot is kind of out. If you don't want to make it competitive, you can always keep all the chairs, but now we are making it like musical mats. So like let's say if you are 3 members in the family or 4 members in the family, you can place your mats, and every mat you can have a yoga card, or you can just innovate your own yoga pose during every pause. And then just like how you play musical mats, musical chair, you can play musical mats. And whenever the chance comes, the music stops, everyone has to freeze on their mat with some pose. So you can either choose a card for it, or a parent can declare the pose, or even children like to co-create the class always. They want to take the leadership position. They love it. So they can also announce the name of the pose or create their own new poses. So there are some different ideas. There is no end to innovation with kids. Sometimes they will only come up with some amazing idea and you'll be very surprised. So go ahead and let them create the class along with you. So these are some ideas and props that you can use, and any games that you already know can be converted into yoga games. I know one more game that I converted. Jenga is very popular game, the building blocks. So what I did was I named different poses and breathing and different practices, yogic practices on those Jenga. Like if you're okay to do that, I marked all the Jengas with that, and every time any block that we pull out, one has to do that practice. So this becomes absolutely innovative ideas for your kid, to do yoga along with some games. So that is also one of the way you can introduce yoga games and asanas. Yoga stories are very popular with younger age groups, especially till the age group of 8 or 9, maybe. So, yoga stories are nothing but where in the character you have various animals, situations, and objects, and trees, and water, and boats. So, if anyone here familiar with yoga poses, we know that different yoga poses are nothing but name of different animals and how the body takes their shape. So maybe let's say for example fish pose, then we have different object poses too, like chair pose, table pose, the shape triangle pose. We have boat pose, okay, different things like that. So you can also make the stories, or sometimes if you're already reading a story and if you spot some characters in it or animals in it, then that you can convert into asanas. So you have a nice story time as a family together, and you all are also doing those poses. Sometimes you can also give challenge to your children that okay, you are stuck on an island and you have to now get back to your house. Imagine all the things that you will have around you and how you will come back. So maybe they'll start coming up with an idea like, oh, I am on an island, which means I have some tall trees. So they will tell them, okay, tall tree, can you show me how the tree is? Can you do a tree pose? And then they will may say that, okay, we have a boat. Oh, let's do a boat pose. So you have to incorporate yoga stories and some of these characters you have to create in the story by which they can do poses. Yoga stories work fantastic with younger age group till 7 or the 8. Yeah? So that can be done. There are different props that you can use to make it very interesting for children to practice yoga. For example, I showed you yoga card is one of the props. Some other props that you can use are feathers. So these are some nice, beautiful, colorful feathers that are very popular in any yoga practice. I'm going to show you in the further slides when we speak about breathing on how to use these feathers. And we also use these feathers for some yoga challenge. For example, you can ask your child to hold on to some of the poses. And you can keep a feather, maybe if he's holding any pose, a tree pose or a warrior pose, and you can keep a feather on his body part, maybe on the hand or the head or the shoulder, and ask them to hold the poses. So that will naturally incorporate the aspect of stability and focus and concentration in the pose while they are happy to take up the challenge. So they won't even realize that you're working on their stability aspect or you're working on the focus, but just with the in the mind that I have to, hold the pose. The feather should not move when I'm holding the pose. So that will encourage them to, naturally be focused and stable in the pose. And that is definitely helping them off the mat. So these are some things that you can do with the asanas. With the older children, example 8 plus, the fantastic idea is obstacle course. I'm sure many of you, all of us have seen this obstacle courses, and you can make your own obstacles here. Like, for example, a child has to reach from point A to point B, and in between, you can keep some bricks or some belts or some ball, or they have to do something. You can create your own obstacles for them. Maybe you can place some few chairs, which creates like a mountain, and they have to crawl down. And when they come to every spot, you can keep some yoga cards, or you can announce what pose they need to do from spot A to spot B. So, yeah, older children, they really enjoy this challenging activities wherein you can incorporate different yoga asanas. So that is also one of the nice activity children really enjoy a lot, and they don't find yoga class as boring. Sometimes if we just start instructing them like how we do yoga, then okay, come on, sit on the mat, sit next to me, and now breathe in and breathe out, and come on, do this pose. they are going to lose interest like in maybe 5 minutes or so. Their attention span will be very limited. However, if you put yoga asanas into stories, into games, into some challenge, into obstacles, and in different ways, then they will actually look forward for doing asanas. So that's how you can make it more enjoyable experience for them. And then we have some partner poses and family yoga. So there are different poses which can be done together, holding hands or giving support to each other. And here I encourage you to just Google it, like just put partner poses or family yoga. You will get lots of ideas on that, like holding some tree pose together. We all can count together till 10. So these are some innovative ideas. I mean, there are lots, but I just thought that I should just trigger your creativity, and I'm sure you're going to all come up with different ideas as well. So this was asanas as far as yoga is concerned. Let's little discuss about the breathing aspect on how you can introduce different pranayam to your kids. So remember one thing, till the age of 12, we are not introducing any breath retention. Why am I mentioning this? If any one of you are already a practitioner, you would know a little bit about pranayam. There are some dynamic practices like Kapalabhati, Bastrika, fast breathing. So mostly with kids, we are not taking any risk. So up to the age of 12, 13, we are not introducing any dynamic breathing or fast breathing or holding the breath. So be very mindful about it. But there are different ways you can incorporate breath awareness. It is very, very important that you can incorporate how they breathe correctly and how breath helps them to be stress free or come in the present moment. Just with your little bit of innovative techniques on how you teach them breathing, you will realize that they will learn the technique of releasing the stress or coming in the present moment or be more focused in the task that you're doing. So the first is abdominal breathing, very easy. So when we inhale, the abdomen should rise up basically. So that's the common thing. Now, what happens with kids is we can always use some prop because it will be too technical for them. If I tell them that, okay, inhale deeply and bring your abdomen out, these are very complicated instructions for children, and it will not attract them or they will get disconnected because, breath work is something where you have to sit and do. So kids may not get very excited about it. So we have to make it exciting for them. So what you can do is, especially with younger children or slightly older, you can use some nice soft toy, very small one. Like I have this one which I use for kids yoga, and you can play. You can ask children to lie down in shavasana or lie down on the mat on their back, and then place this soft toy. Or if you don't have a soft toy, you can create a nice with origami boat. I sometimes call it a sailboat breathing. They also like that name. They're sailing the boat on their belly. So you can create some nice rocket or a boat with the origami craft work. Place it on the belly, and while they're lying down, you ask them, they have to bring your soft toy or bring the boat up and down. So that becomes very fascinating observation for them while they are practicing the breath work. So the abdomen goes up and abdomen goes down. So then they understand, oh, when I breathe in, so they understand this mechanism of the correct breathing. And oh, when I inhale, my abdomen should come up, my abdomen rises up. So you can use some props like this. Even for adult, this is a fantastic practice. You can try it on yourself by placing some notebook or very lightweight, but nothing heavy. So this is one of the breath work that you can incorporate while also you're lying down, on the bed together sometimes. This can be a nighttime practice too. If you're making your child sleep, you can also practice both of you together. As a parent and a child can practice this breath work together, keeping some props on the belly. The second type of breath is finger breathing. This is nothing but again to put their awareness on the breathing. And usually we have to convey the idea that how your chest should expand when every time you breathe in. So basically what the technique is, we keep all our fingers together and we exhale. And while inhaling, while breathing in, we separate all our fingers like this. So it becomes like an observation point for them that, oh, I have to do something like this. I have to expand my chest. I have to fill in my lungs here, and then exhaling again, bringing all the fingertips together. This keeps them focused on the practice. With a child, it's very challenging to just tell them, okay, inhale and exhale, and that's how you de-stress. It may not work for them. So using some of this thing really works. I also have one nice Hoverman spear, but it's a very mini Hoverman spear ball. But if you, any one of you really have the big one, it's also a nice way to put the awareness on it. So you can use this ball as a prop, and every time you inhale, you expand, and exhaling, close it. And as a parent, you can use this to and tell your child to focus on this, and you can take a nice few rounds of deep breathing. You can make them understand what it means to be inhaling fully and then exhaling and emptying your lungs completely. So these are some props you can use to make it very interesting and meditative experience for kids. Another thing is partner breathing, or I also call it as back-to-back breathing. So if you have siblings at home, then this works really good. And even parents can do it along with a child. Here, what do we do is we sit with our back to back with a kid or another sibling, and then we inhale and exhale. For example, if I'm sitting like this now, somebody would be sitting with his or her back on my back, and then when I inhale and exhale, it'll be a very nice experience because I'll be exactly understanding that how the other person is breathing in. And we can also breathe in and out together. We can kind of have a nice harmony in our inhalations and exhalations. That makes a child very much aware of what it means to change the breathing pattern, what it means to breathe in deeply and try to do it with the partner. So that is going to help in building up the awareness on the breathing, right? The next practice, which is also very, very essential for children, and I believe that it must be part of their daily practice, is the sound of a humming bee, the Brahmari practice. Maybe if you are all practitioners, you would know it. So what we do in Brahmari is we inhale through both the nostrils, and while exhaling, we create the sound of makara like this. It's a very popular practice. So I will also share this slide so you have something for your reference. When you want to get back to this and really apply in your house, you know what things I can do with my child. So don't worry about the things that I'm talking. Maybe I'll share this slide at the end. Then there's something very interesting with kids really love a lot is a lion breathing. What is lion breathing now is where you inhale through both the nostrils, and it's okay. You don't have to be very technical with kids about inhaling, exhaling. It's okay. They learn gradually on the right breathing part. So while exhaling, they have to roll out their tongue, stick out their eyes, and make a nice, loud, roaring sound. So any practices which has this sound element in it, somehow kids enjoy it a lot. So how does the lion breathing work? I'm going to show you. I may look a little funny, but please pardon me. Kids love this practice, so it's nice if as a parent also you end up doing it sometimes. I'm going to show you now. I was very soft, but you can still go all out, and it can be really a nice, big, loud roar. And it may look just funny, but every element that I'm talking has a lot of benefits on their mental and emotional well-being as well, especially Brahmari and Lions breathing. So children who have a lot of anger issues, if we are training them into Brahmari and Lions breathing, you will really notice the changes in their behavior. So Lions breathing help in releasing the pent-up emotions or pent-up anger, aggression, frustration. Children with excess energy, need to practice this. And as a parent, if you are in a circle and practice this breathing, they're going to have fun with you. You all are going to laugh together and keep on doing this, and you won't even realize that my child is having a lot of emotional benefits and is venting out the pented up, emotions or suppressed things. So this is one of the nice pranayam, or I would say the breathing practices that kids can do. Moving further to the last part of some mindfulness and relaxation that kids can do. As I said, yoga is not just about some poses. There are different ideas that can be incorporated. What we like to do with kids in our yoga classes or even at home that you can do is ask them to prepare a nice box, or you can give them some nice jar ask them to write this gratitude, give the name of the jar, gratitude jar, and request them to write down few things that they are grateful for. This is a beautiful idea, which by which the kids will understand these values of expressing the gratitude or being thankful and be less complaining. If you mostly see kids, they can always take parents for granted. Like, oh, I don't have this, I don't have this, you don't do this for me, you don't do this for me. So instead of getting mad over it, or you getting depressed about it, there's a nice way of doing this family mindful ideas where all of you, not just your child, but you all have this ritual, maybe once in a week or every day, depending on how you want to implement it. You can have this time where you all sit together and you fill this jar with, you write down some gratitude on a piece of paper, you fold it and you write it down. And then on a monthly basis or maybe 15 days, you can all sit together at some family time and then open the jar and read out everything that what you're grateful for. This is a beautiful way where you are incorporating this virtue of gratitude in your child. One more thing that is really fascinating and they love doing it is identifying emotions. With younger children, sometimes they don't know what they're feeling and how to express it, or what is happening exactly to my mind and body. Is there any connection between that? They don't know all this. So just to help them identifying that what they're going through, you can play this different ideas, with them. Like, you can ask them that, can you identify any strong emotion that you've been feeling today throughout the day? You observe it and let me know tomorrow when we have a breakfast. So giving them a nice deadline of 24 hours and observing that, are they feeling any particular emotion very strongly nowadays? So that way you can do. I also use this. I'm going to show you one emotion card. Again, you get this online, and I know many psychiatrists and psychologists, counselors, they use this. These are nice emotion cards, and sometimes you also play with younger children on acting out the emotions. So maybe I can just show a card to a child. It says crying, sleepy, hungry, confident, thoughtful. So they learn to understand how they are feeling, or what it means to be thoughtful, what it means to be confident, what is my body language when I'm confident. So helping them identify these different emotions depending on the age, of course. The more elder they are, the uh, more subtle emotions you can introduce. So this is something nice game that kids like to observe. Oh, what am I feeling? That will develop their mindfulness and awareness faculties in their mind. That, oh, I need to see how am I feeling, which is very nice practice from the childhood. And at least as a parent, once in a week or sometimes even one meal in a day, whatever is comfortable, we should encourage mindful eating. What is mindful eating is observing, being grateful for what we have, the food, and observing how it looks, how it tastes, how it melts in my mouth. Does it release any juice, and how do I gulp it? So observing it very much in detail is kind of known as mindful eating. And with children, especially in the classroom sometimes, or in a family, we do a raisin meditation. We give them the raisin and we first ask them to observe the texture of the raisin, and then just observe for a few seconds and feel the texture. And then, of course, they are requested to share if they wish to on how was the texture of the raisin. Then we ask them to eat it very mindfully with eyes closed and see if that raisin releases any juice. So if I just tell a child, he or she may not do, but in a family, if I develop this culture, at least one meal in a day together, where for a few moments, at least one particular dish or one particular thing we eat mindfully, and then we discuss about it at the end after eating, that how was the experience, did I feel something. And that is going to be a lifelong wonderful practice or habits that we are cultivating in our children. So these are some little ideas. There are so many, but just thought of discussing few with you. And then, as we discussed in the beginning, that kids also feel stressed and they also have anxiety. So our first job is to make them understand the difference between what it means to be tensed. How is your body going to feel? So I have this amazing exercise that I do with children sometimes is tensing and relaxing. So with younger children, I tell them that all of you are uncooked spaghetti or uncooked noodle, depending on your country, whatever you eat, or something like that. Any hard food that you can relate to, you can give that example to them, like uncooked pasta or whatever it is. So uncooked spaghetti or a noodle. So become like that. So most of them, they'll tighten their body, and they know what it means to be a uncooked spaghetti. And then I tell them that, okay, now I'm turning on the fire here around you. And now you are a spaghetti, and now you are a cooked spaghetti. And they suddenly start, like sloppy, they become sloppy and soft and relaxing. So then I ask them, do you see the difference between a cooked spaghetti and uncooked spaghetti? This is the difference between the tension and relaxation. So with kids, they really get fascinated. Oh, yes, yes. Sometimes when I am tired or angry, I do feel like uncooked spaghetti or I get tensed. So they need to know what it means to relax. I mean, it's so funny, right? If I tell children, why don't you relax yourself? I'm sure as adults also we keep on thinking what it means to relax. So this is what it is, the difference, relaxing the body parts. So giving some examples like this, making it fun for them, will really help them to understand what it means to relax. Then, as a parent, you can have some amazing guided visualizations for your kids in Shavasana, maybe during bedtime, or maybe sometimes in a day. All of you can do it together. Kids like, especially younger children, they like imaginary world, fantasy. So you can take them on a magic carpet ride while they are lying down in Shavasana, taking them to different gardens, different places, and giving some nice affirmations. So it's also easily available on the net. You can just put guided visualization for children and you get amazing ideas. But we need to implement it at some point in the day after some asana practice. You can make them lie down. Not more than 3-4 minutes, however, otherwise it is not going to work. With kids, only 3 to 4 minutes is enough for them to keep them in the loop of Shavasana relaxation. Even Yoga Nidra is like a guided meditation, a long guided meditation, which really helps where we start by relaxing our body and then we relax the breath. And then you can always put some nice resolve, positive visualizations. For example, we usually do Yoga Nidra for children who are very fearful of exams or they have some past traumas or some stress. So Yoga Nidra really works on that aspect as well. Now, overall, to sum it up, there are some nice other family yogic practices apart from the asana, pranayam, and meditation part. Always as a parent, if the child is really young, as they sleep or while they are just studying, you can just go and whisper some nice sankalpas into their ears. So you should have a list of sankalpas. Sankalpa is nothing but a resolve or a positive affirmation that you would want to see or manifest in your child, or something in the present tense or future tense, something with positive statements and words, so that you can whisper in their ears. You can encourage them to do some mandala, like nice symmetrical drawings. They can also make some mandala out of the nature. I know how some children, they beautifully collect all the sticks and flowers and leaf, and they make a nice design. So our goal is not to give them yoga as another burden on them. Oh no, now you have a yoga class, so sit here. No, we want we want them to be super creative as they go through this journey of yoga learning. So asking them on how they want to create a pose or how they want to do it. So making them as a leaders is a really empowering thing that we can do as a parent. We can incorporate all the aspects of different types of yoga. So we can incorporate bhakti yoga through writing and chanting of mantras, praying together. Maybe most of us know all this already, so I'm not elaborating much on that. Children can also create their tiny little altar in their room with whatever they feel. Don't impose things on them. You can do what you are doing and following, definitely if they see you as example, they will look forward. But if they just feel like sometimes keeping something also like a stone or a flower or something from there in their small auspicious place, give them that space, where yes, this is your place where you feel auspicious, you can do that. Then you can incorporate some ideas of seva or karma yoga in children. Kids love to help, isn't it? They like to learn and together along with the parents. So allow them to help you in certain things at home. That is also yoga. So don't think that yoga means they have to be upside down all the time. These are the different ways you can spend and make yoga as a lifestyle for your kid as well, and not just some 1 hour class with some postures of breathing. Okay? And you can study together some yogic scriptures, stories together. Sattvic food is also one of the yogic practice. If you are eating sattvic food, then only they will eat sattvic food. So you have to also make some changes in your own dietary habits if you're not. And you can't expect that my child should not be eating junk food, but you are fond of it. Then it is not going to work. So you have to create that atmosphere in the family where everybody is encouraged to eat sattvic food. You can encourage your child together along with you. Take for a nice nature walk. And this is the time where you can practice mindfulness together. I like to do this a lot. You can do a nature walking, maybe around you, need not go so far, and ask your child to let's observe something in the nature constantly and let's come up with the details of it. And you have no idea how fantastic answers they come up with. Like they are so then into the activity, like a leaf or a flower or the rows of walking ants or anything, any stone that you want to observe, but observe it very carefully and note down all the details of it or remember them. So they like to do. So you can do something like that. You can, as a parent, have some nice bedtime stories. I'm sure most of you must be aware of this aspect of parenting and doing some chants. Also, children who has some trauma or anxiety or stress or always worried about exams, right? Along with the mantra chanting that most of you may be doing, you can also incorporate Brahmari and Omkar chanting few rounds before they study or even before going to bed. So some Omkar chanting is also recommended for children for their physiological and psychological. Okay. So towards the end, nothing big. I'm sure most of you are experienced and know all this, but I want to quickly read some few tips on yogic parenting. So I'm just going to read out. It is just for our reflection. I'm going to also share this slide so you can reread it again if you are inspired by it. So avoid expectations of how they should be and avoid pushing and enforcing our own opinions on them. Sometimes we treat children like dolls, our possession or toy. We want them to do, like what we want them to do. So these habits stay us with us from childhood. When they do not conform, they go through a lot of stress and anxiety. We have to avoid expressing our own ambitions because they will have their own path. Avoid possessiveness. Be like the witness, providing what they need, but not pushing what you feel is necessary. So these are some points for you to just quietly contemplate in your meditative hours. That am I doing any of these mistakes in my parenting? And it's never too late. We can just take the corrective steps. Avoid imposing your views. Let the child be free. Freedom to child creates a sense of responsibility, confidence, and respect. Freedom is needed to allow their inbuilt talent to flourish. Be friends with your children, then they will be comfortable and open, not scared. They will feel equal and more open to this. Let them express their positive nature. Sometimes we end up, stopping them if they are too honest. That don't speak this in front of them. Don't let them be. If they're intuitively truthful, for example, okay. Cultivate the positive nature. And very, very important, you all must be knowing this, that kids, they just follow by example and live by it. So these are the simple things that I wanted to express today. And there are many innovative ideas, but my job today was just to trigger that, the yogic parenting art in use, that now you can think, oh, there can be some innovative ways where I can make yoga, pranayam, breathing, mindfulness a fun for my family and can be a get together time. So my job was like just to trigger this, ignite the fire in me. I am very happy to take up some questions now. If you have, you can post them in the chat box here if you have any.
I can start. I have a question.
Yes.
First of all, I just want to thank you for your very, very nice and intriguing presentation. My question is that, you mentioned how we have to make it fun for the children who are younger than 8, 9, and that we shouldn't have this expectation that this is the right thing. Okay, now it's time to do yoga. Let's do yoga. I'm wondering at what time does it transition? Because we also, I mean, maybe it's because of our upbringing, but we also associate yoga with the discipline, with the time for practice, with some serious practice. So at what age does that transition off to a serious practice?
After 8, yeah. So mostly till 7, we do not have to impose them the fixed timings or, any like a structure educational thing like yoga. Yoga can be introduced like fun till 7, but post like 8 to 12, now they thrive on the routine and discipline, mostly this age. And we want to also cultivate the balance and discipline. So from the age of 8, there is no harm in now telling them, okay, now for next 45 minutes, we'll have a nice yoga class. And you start to incorporate different detailed elements of yoga, Sanskrit names, mantras, breathing awareness. So all these things can go along with a proper systematic yoga class. And children of this age group, they like to now get the detailed understanding of it. They feel that, oh, I understand this. It's a nice thing to. So they want to also learn more at that age. So post 8 is a nice time where you can make it more, like a disciplinary class. But before 7, our job till the age of 7 is to inspire them to continue with yoga when they reach 8. Sometimes when we start yoga at 8, they are like already there with the friends age group, and I'm not interested kind of thing. So till 7, if they have been doing yoga as fun, entertainment, challenging, then they most likely they want to continue with that experience and learn more.
Mm-hmm. And what if, like, for some of us who are a little bit later, in the parenting journey, our children are already 8 or 8 plus, and we haven't made yoga that fun and welcoming environment for them. What do we do, like, at that time?
Never mind, you start doing yoga. Start doing first. All of us as a parents have to do. Maybe you don't want to start with asanas. Maybe some breath work. Okay, let's do it together. Mm-hmm. So even encouraging them to do it along with you will also help. No problem at all. And I would say if you're starting the yoga journey 8 plus, you have to make it more challenging for them. You start giving them some challenges that can we make an obstacle course? Let's try. Like reach from point A to point B, but I'm going to put some blocks in between. There are some yoga cards kept in between. Let's see if you can take up the challenge. So after 8, mostly they would like to participate if the activity is giving trigger to their, leadership qualities, and if they feel challenged about certain things. So try to have some more challenging poses. Like we have a set of poses for 8 plus. It's like the hero poses, like all the favorite superheroes that are out there. Or also in our scriptures, we have so many heroes. So based on that, we create some poses. They need to feel leaders and heroes and confident. So that way you can incorporate yoga by putting more challenge now in the practice so that they may look forward for it.
Sure, thank you. And I have a little bit of I guess it's maybe a philosophical question, is that since you've studied so much about ancient yoga systems, do you notice a difference in the trend, or is this the whole aspect of making yoga fun and attractive to children? Has it always been there, or we didn't never need to introduce it because the children were naturally more mobile in the earlier days or earlier ages? So I just want to hear a little bit, because many times it feels like it's a fad, trying to make
yoga a fancy thing to do.
Yeah. So I just want to hear a little bit about that from you.
So in my opinion, my personal opinion, in ashrams where we have also studied, they definitely make it a little strict for kids also, but post 8. That is the time they really want to trigger the whole the concept of discipline, regularity, balance. That is a time where mostly they would now start with their challenging phase of maturity. So that is the time we introduce more number of Surya Namaskar, alternate nostril breathing. So that is really incorporated. But before that, for the age of 7, mostly it is not discipline. It was a lifestyle before, but now we have to somehow do some tricks by which they are still doing certain things. It's a very challenging job for us now, although we may say that okay, if the ashram style or the traditional style is what it demands, it is only discipline, then I bet that many of the families would give up on the practice, because the allurement of gadgets, mobile phones, tablets and PlayStation and games, or the entertainment world is so strong that most likely if parents are also not into yoga, there are least chances that kids would also be getting attracted to it. So we have to rework and rebuild. We have to do the packaging and then sell it like, oh, it's fun, it's nice, and then gradually then make it disciplined for them. So in ashram life also, till the age of 7, they don't expect them to be disciplined, but yes, there are certain times they need to get up in the morning and then do some yogic practices. But definitely now we are fighting a very big warrior in the opposition. So for that matter, we are making it more fun now. Otherwise, in ancient days, there were not so many games introduced.
Thank you so much. That's really a very very useful point to know, because sometimes we become very purists, and in that mission we drive away the children. So thank you. I'm getting some questions, so I'm going to start to take these questions now. Can we know the right time to begin, or the right age to begin yoga for children?
So when I take my kids yoga training, we start doing yoga from birth to 2. But of course, that's with moms and bubs, and we do it along with the mother. So if you want to independently, start to move your child or incorporate these poses, then age of 3 or 4 onwards is where they start to copy you. Like toddlers, they like to see and copy. So that is an age where you can also incorporate. But remember, till the age of 7 and 8, unlike the traditional yoga practice where we recommend on holding the asanas, so we are not doing any of those with the kids. So they can just go in the pose for like explore their body, build their awareness on what all movements can my body do, have fun, and come back from the pose. So that can happen right from age 3 onwards. And before age 2 also, like they would like to copy mothers in the doing some poses. Or even moms and bubs classes are nowadays there where mother can still hold the baby and do some poses together. So technically from age of 3, they can do some poses, but make sure they're not holding the poses or not forcing them on or correcting them. Like our triangle pose would look different than what our child would do, but we are not correcting till the age of 12. Because their bodies are still developing, the process of ossification, the bones are still very soft. So we are not forcing them to sit in the lotus pose or you have to stretch your hand. No, all the corrections can start post 8, 9, 10 little bit, and more strictly after the age of 12. Like then you can speak about the alignment part that mostly we are interested in yoga, that the posture should be. So 3 to 12 is the age group.
Thank you for that. Another question that I have is, you referred to you referred to a lot of benefits of yoga. And one of the examples you gave is the use of Brahmari and I forget.
Lion's breath.
Yes, Brahmari and lion's breath to help children who have issues related to anger. I'm wondering if you, just as a means of example, can share some other poses that are related to such emotional health, and also something that you can comment on how to assist the development of maturity of the children with the physical and mental and emotional maturity, how to sync it up. Because you also made a point that these days children are physically maturing faster, in terms of their puberty, but emotionally they're not ready there. So if you can comment on that.
So very simple answer have. In fact, both the questions have very similar answer. So what is highly recommended in ancient yogic text also, which write on yoga for children, is the practice of Surya Namaskar. Is a very balancing practice. And of course, there are several asanas which are helping them. But again, that will be like, I feel, another subject matter to completely focus on the different asanas for different age group. But commonly, popular asanas like the bow pose or the cobra pose or the dog pose, Adho Mukha Svanasana. So all these poses are definitely helping them. But mostly what is helping them for this bridging the gap between body and emotions, bringing balance to nervous system and endocrine system is what we're looking for mainly at that point of time. And that is Surya Namaskar and alternate nostril breathing, which I did not mention because we are discussing all the age groups randomly. But definitely, if the child is above 8 or reaching towards 8, at least minimum these two practices should be like a discipline in the schedule. Surya Namaskar and alternate nostril breathing, along with Brahmari and Lion's Breath, depending on the need of that child to manage anger or anxiety. So these are the highly recommended, along with the mantras, of course. In yogic text, even chanting of different mantras is recommended. So it can be a short practice also. If need not, if after 8 you think the child has developed that maturity where he did not now play around with animals and stories, it's okay. It can be a very nice disciplined practice with Surya Namaskar, breathing, and mantras.
Okay, thank you. There's a question about, can you please suggest what should be a duration of practice for children? And is it ideal to combine it with a bit of aerobics and Zumba?
Right. So first I will speak about the age group. Sorry, what was the first question? Age group, right?
No, duration.
Timing.
Duration.
Sorry, the duration.
Yes.
So, of course, younger the children, the less attention span they would have. So, anywhere between 20 to 30 minutes of class. But when I say 20 to 30 minutes, I am combining here everything. I'm opening the class with some mantra. I'm taking some warm-ups in a playful way. Like for example, I'll give for younger children. We cook some prashadam. Like we say that we're cooking some prashadam. So we start rolling our pots and we move our body. We bring some different things that we want to put in our prashadam and go twist our bodies to left and right. So all this entertainment part with younger kids, along with some rounds of Surya Namaskar, asanas, breath work, this is a sequence that we follow. One mindfulness activity for sure in your class, and relaxation. Lying down in Shavasana with some meditative script or any affirmation. So all of this together, like warm up, asana, breathing, games, mindfulness, mantras, all of this little bit together should be not more than 20 to 30 minutes for the age group of up to 6, 7. And then gradually it can go up to 45 minutes. And then 1 hour when the child is up to 12 years. That should be their time limit.
Thank you. And the second question was, is it ideal to combine this with a bit of aerobics and Zumba?
See, the goal of classical practice of yoga has always been the calming aspect of it, relaxation, Sthira Sukhamasana, like whatever definition of asanas or yoga we have, is to bring our mind to more stability, the state of more balance and stability. So if we incorporate the habit of this correct understanding of classical aspect of yoga, we always end with relaxation. So I would not combine them. I would rather separate the sessions, I would say. So I would make yoga practice as really a yoga practice where I'm doing classical asanas. Maybe I'm adding some fun, but I am sticking to my principles. I'm not compromising on the asana part or pranayam part. They all are coming from the scriptures. I'm just decorating them for kids to make it fascinating. But I'm not replacing my principles of yogic practices. But again, I'm not saying that you should not be practicing other forms of exercise, which is helpful for the kids. You can separate them because the goal is to make them more mindful, aware, and relaxation. We don't want to miss out on that goal by doing some dynamic activity. Or you do the Zumba thing before you start the yoga. let the yoga, relaxation, mindfulness be at the end of whatever you want to do in the beginning. So at least you can compromise like that, but not combine them by having the approach where you end up with some dynamic thing. You always want the child to be mindful, relaxed at the end of the session. So you can remember this principle and then play around with the combinations.
Thank you. Um, you mentioned different types of yoga poses. What would be a good source to find out the types if parents aren't too much involved in yoga themselves?
Very nice. So I highly recommend this book on Yoga for Children, Part 1 and Part 2 from Bihar School of Yoga. So these are red colored books easily available online as well. And they are one of the most authentic books. I'm here, although I give examples of props and blah blah blah, which I made it look very lucrative. But I highly recommend these books as far as the principle of authentic yoga practice and child development elements are concerned. This is the most authentic book available right now. And it has different elements also about asanas, breathing, and they also speak on some yogic games that can be played. So I highly recommend.
Thank you. The second part to this question is I'll say that. What yoga poses would be apt for 2 to 2.5 years? I think you already addressed it, but do you have anything to add?
No, they just have to play around and explore their body. So nothing so much technical for or a list for them because they're too young to really pose some poses on. Something like the animal poses are what they really like to explore with their bodies, and they have fun with it. They can create stories with some animals and objects surrounding the house, making them familiar. Your goal for this age group is where they learn the independence of exploring their body now on their own because they have started to learn now, standing and walking and running on their own. So you want to make them explore their body next. So different poses with the names of animal and chair, objects, shapes is what we are learning in the school also. And if they are like homeschooling or they're learning some different colors. So you can combine these two experiences of shapes, animals, and objects from their books, storybooks, and around what they see, and then they can do those poses and move their body.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. There's a specific question about one child's condition. The parent has written it here. I'm going to read it out. Or my nephew has not started talking yet, though he's 2.5 years old. Can you suggest any solution through yoga, through Vedic?
So I do get this question mostly, but I first always recommend to go to a proper child specialist for this. Maybe some practices like in a long run, once the real cause is kind of addressed, maybe we can assist with some of these Brahmari practices and basically moving the body just to get the things, the prana in balance. Because I did not go in the depth of more things, but when we are doing asanas, breathing, it is also helping our energy body, the pranamaya kosha. So we are also addressing the imbalance in that. So definitely any holistic practice is definitely going to help. But right now the child is too young to be put into a certain number of rounds or discipline or a practice. So on my honest opinion and a practical opinion, it is nice to first to get a proper child's doctor guidance and then gradually incorporate proper yoga sequences so that we can have some pranic balance in the body.
Thank you. There's a question about Surya Namaskar that how do we implement it as it's a long sequence and requires a lot of discipline, unlike making it fun with certain games or cards?
Yes. So what we do with younger age group is 3 to 5. We do not take them to the full cycle. It's too much for them to understand what you have to do. It's too much of left leg back, right leg back. So from the age group of 3 to 5, we just say up and down. We just make them go, hello sun, hello earth. We express our gratitude and we also try to discuss what the sun gives us, what the earth gives us. And just going up and down, up and down. That's from 3 to 5. And 5 onwards, we can create a beautiful story of sky, earth, or we can use numbers, which is more very fascinating for them because children after the age group of 5, they start to have lot of hyper, energy. We have to utilize it in a proper way. So Surya Namaskar works best sometimes when it's done in a dynamic way. So you can also use some counts. If you are incorporating Sanskrit, you can use ekam, dve, trini, and then you can teach them, even the Sanskrit numbers or whatever language you are using. And then with the number, they have a challenge to move to the next pose. So each child can also like to take some leadership position where you can incorporate that you count now. You have to count. So one by one, this creates that interest in doing the full Surya Namaskar in children. Sometimes I also like to use some chimes, this meditation bell, like this. So every time we ring one, then they do one pose, then another pose. This builds their awareness also on the listening part. That when I listen this, I have to move. When I listen, I move. So this builds a nice synchrony between their body movements and awareness level. So you can also use some chime, or maybe if you have kartal or any bell, clapping. So this encourages them to do more rounds of Surya Namaskar. Coming back to the previous question that you had asked, Mataji, about discipline, I also use this as a tool uh, to incorporate discipline in the yoga class. Because sometimes when you take too many games in the class, or as a parent, they take you for granted. They may not even listen to you when you want them to be quiet. So I always use this as a rule in my kids yoga area, that this is your silent friend. That every time I use this, and use that body language. It's not easy to make your child, interested in yoga. You yourself have to use a lot of body language and tone. I use this as this is your silent friend. So that people, every time this, they all naturally, after 2-3 days, they all. So these are some ways you can. It's not just about fun and games. You also have to explain to them that when it's time to be quiet, it's time to be quiet. So you can use some props, bells like this, which from the beginning is a prop, which is always to be used when you want it. You cannot use this like a duster, like a teacher uses. No, only one, and then they have. So this takes time, but we all know kids thrive on consistency and discipline. So if I use certain things which represent certain things that they have to do, they will start to follow it. And it has worked in my most chaotic classes with like boys of age group of 6, 7, 8. And I just did this, and then gradually all of them. So, the class is always a balance of fun and discipline together.
Thank you. There's a question. Can you give some examples of sankalpas that you referred to earlier?
Sankalpa is if you want to whisper in your child's ear that I am remembering everything that I study, or I channelize my emotions in through different breathing practices, or I channelize my emotion in a proper way, or I'm healthy, happy, strong. My parents love me and I love them. Depending on what you think your child sometimes shows or displays some insecurity about, or has a low self-esteem, depending on every child is different with different nature. So as a parent, you need to identify if there's a specific area that he or she needs to work on. Based on that, you can design your own sankalpas that, okay, my child, I feel or I sense that lacks on self-confidence, or is always more, fearful. So I am confident, I am strong, I feel brave. So giving such affirmations on a regular basis will be helpful. And again, I say it's available. You just put on, I'll be very happy gradually to be part of your community and share some documents too. But overall, again, it is easily, nicely available. You can just put affirmations for children. And I'm sure nowadays everything is so easily available.
Yes.
You can find some positive things.
Thank you. There's a question. Well, there's some questions coming up for adults now, because you laid so much emphasis on practice of parents as practicing yoga, so that we can share with our children. Can you suggest some books for adults?
No books. I recommend you to do it with a teacher. Books will not encourage you much. However, again, I would recommend you Bihar School of Yoga books. They are really good books without any commercial or any marketing aspect to it. I mean, I personally feel that they are one of the most authentic ashram as far as yoga is concerned. And they don't even charge, when you go there. So I find them very authentic as far as India is concerned. So all the books from them are really nice, even if someone is looking for therapeutic needs. I'm sure if we are adults, if you've never practiced yoga, we already have some disorders now which we need to cure before we start a practice. Like maybe we are struggling with back pain, diabetes, hypertension, neck pain, spondylitis, stiffness in the shoulder, hypertension, you just name it. So they also have some nice practices sequence for all to address all these needs. So I would recommend the books from Bihar School of Yoga, which is called as Asana, Pranayam, Mudra, and Bandha. So the book is called as Asana, Pranayam, Mudra, and Bandha. It is a perfect book for a beginner. They also write down about the precautions that you need to take as a beginner, some tips on when to practice, what to wear, when not to do. So lot of tips are there, and plus different postures along with their detailed explanation. So I recommend that. There are many, but I think that comes to my mind right now.
Thank you so
Best
much.
is with
Sorry. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
best is with the yes.
Thank you. And I think it's kind of like the juggling act for many parents. We want our children to practice, like you said, expectations of having the best of the whole world, and simultaneously,
Yes.
many of us aren't, very strict in our practices, or that we have the capacity or ability to practice yoga. And I think your point that we have to be the example that they follow, not just
Mhm.
saying it to them, but actually doing it ourselves. So, I mean, personally, I learned a lot from this webinar as a parent, even though I had the fortune of hearing you, from your extended series that you did earlier on, just as when the lockdown started, you had offered a kids yoga course, the 7-day course. And still, I feel like today I learned so much more as well. I just want to take this opportunity to really thank you so much, Arti ji, for taking your time
Thank
to
you.
share this knowledge with all of us here. I'm sure this is the beginning of an ongoing relationship. I know as a parent, I may have many questions for you. As the director of a school, I know my teachers are already messaging some questions that we would like to ask you, because we have a preschool where we have children from 2 to 6 years of age, and we also have an elementary school. And we include yoga. Our teachers were on the call today. They do yoga with the children. And right now we're online, so we try our best to do some things that we can do online with them. But we'd like to connect with you to learn more about how we can improve the practices. And I just really want to thank you on behalf of everybody who's attended the webinar today, that how to see the thing in perspective, why it's important to make it fun for them, and actually how to make it fun so that they develop that eagerness to have a lifestyle of yoga. And for our audiences, I also want to let you know that Mother Aarti, she is the head teacher at the Govardhan School of Yoga, which is located at the Govardhan Eco Village in India. It's a phenomenal place. I haven't been there myself, but I've benefited so much from even just their online courses. It's a very, very nice community striving towards holistic development and providing others opportunity for holistic development in of themselves. So please, take the time to check the community out, look at the Govardhan School of Yoga, and I'm sure you'd all benefit so much. Mother Aarti, do you have anything to add at this point?
Thank you. Thank you for nicely summarizing my thoughts. And I just one point came to my mind, that sometimes why we make yoga as fun, because children are already going through a lot of systems in the school. So somehow our job as parents or caretakers or yoga teachers is to break the pattern where we want to uneducate them basically. Please don't mind this way of saying it, but my problem is sometimes the way we are educating them is making them robots, where they're not co-creating anything while they're learning. It's a very one-sided experience for them, that I have to drag my back to the school. I have to hear everything that teacher has to say, and then now there is like nothing for me to contribute here, and I come back and I'm pressurized. So we are, by doing making yoga as fun, where we make them, inspire them to co-create the class, make them leaders in the class. We want to break this pattern of typical education system module or system that we are unfortunately have created, which are producing like machines, like robots, you know. So that is one of the reason why we are putting emphasis on fun element along with the discipline, of course, in a boundary, the fun in the boundary of this. So that is the reason why we are incorporating a lot of different ideas. So I am feeling really privileged today to share this. As you said that you have a community already where you're working with age group from 3 to 6. So that is very encouraging, and I would love to help in whatever way possible our team can contribute to your community. That will be a really great pleasure for us as well.
We're a school in Scarborough area where we offer holistic education based on the Vedic principles of Panchakosh development to children from 2.5 to almost 8 years now. We have our grade 1 as well. And we're offering these webinars, which you can catch the recording of on our podcast and our YouTube channels. And our main ambition for the school is to create a revolution in education. And we believe that it begins with each family. That's why we're doing these webinars for parents, to empower them to actually make a difference in their child's life. So thank you so much, Aarti. Please go ahead. Thank you.
So I will just chant this universal prayer in the current situation of COVID-19. With the positive resolve and a gratitude, we'll just pray for the well-being of everybody around us. If you know the prayer, please chant. If not, then just listen and have that mood of praying for everyone around us. Universal peace mantra. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah. Sarve santu niramayah. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu. Ma kaschit dukha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us pray for the well-being of all around us. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. All beings healthy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.